Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. It's your friend, Tyler, your host, your furry friend. Welcome. We're so thankful to have you, every single one of you, past guests, future guests, and of course, audience members, here today with Pete Heibloem. He is a founder of Awakening Education, and he is a Cannes Film Festival multi-award winner and a filmmaker, and he is so many other things. I will let him tell you a little bit more about that. Pete, how are you doing today?
Listen, I'm going great, and thanks for having me on. It's great to talk to you.
You're very welcome, and thanks for coming. Thank you for spending some time. Are you speaking to me from Australia? Is that correct? Are you in the Brisbane area?
Yes. We're 100 kilometres north of Brisbane on the Sunshine Coast. And yeah, it used to be a little secret spot, but I think the word's out because it's getting busier now, you know?
Yeah, they found out about it. It tends to happen in the good spots. I always ask that question because I like to look back and think, wow, I spoke to 5 continents in the past few days, or, whenever that does happen. It's just always nice to remind yourself that we really are all in this together, in more ways than we think. So that's great. Shout out quick, of course, affiliate sponsors, Gaia TV. We love you. We cannot wait to see what we can do together in collaboration. Thank you so much for your recent support. Galactic Federation of Light Clothing, Dotan and Tavel. Anybody want to check out their episode? The link is going to be in the bio. It usually is. That video is very popular. They are basically clothing for light workers. If you're a light worker, represent it. They make that clothing, pay attention to the frequency of the fabrics and such. Different slogans regarding illuminated, not Illuminati, light worker, etc., etc. Use the code Tyler33 and you will get a free hat if you add the hat to the cart. And one more, of course, Unified TV. Use the the link in the bio for a free trial. And we appreciate you, Jason, and the whole team over there at Unified. Pete, I know you like to be called Pete. Something I wanted to ask you about, and I'm glad that you're here. Tell me a little bit about your experience at the Cannes Film Festival last year. Was that your first year at the festival, or was that your first year being nominated? Tell me a little bit about that.
For us, we never planned to get into films. We never had heard of Cannes Film Festival, and the idea of ever having something in it just seemed basically so far removed from where we were at that the whole thing came as a massive surprise. I didn't understand the process. I didn't understand the different categories or anything like that. Roxy and I just started out with this underlying idea to share our story and basically to share our experience with others, because through social media and through different interactions with people, we found that individuals often resonated with our awakening story, how we had shifted and sort of transferred from one area to another in our life, in the direction of our career. And, even listening to the heart, the soul, that underlying purpose behind our life. So we decided to see if we turned that into a little movie, a little clip, let's call it. Even like a YouTube video, I guess, is how it started. Yeah. But from there, it ended up turning into a series. And we thought, well, we've come this far. We'll make it a little bit better. And listen, thank you for mentioning that. But it got recognized, in the motivational and spiritual category at Cannes. And we were blown away. Where we get an email and they go, oh my goodness, you've made the monthly final, which was, oh, wow, this is good. We were one of the great releases for the month. And then I went to the end of the year and they put all those months together and they announced us as the winner. I actually couldn't believe it, because what I was talking about in that film is I was sharing the story of my awakening, and the message was personal. So the fact that the message resonated was deeply touching, right? Because it's like basically you're sharing your story, your life, what you've realized and what you've become. So that's a little bit of a background to how that came about and how it sort of just unfolded naturally.
That's really cool. And I appreciate you answering the question, because I was always curious, just following you guys on social media and seeing what you guys do and everything like that, I had always been curious. Like, so of course they make, and I've seen, like Portal to, I think we're talking about Portal to, pardon me, Portal, and I had seen, clips and reels, and just heard people speak about it, kind of in the circles that I tend to be in, and social media and things like that. And then, seeing that stuff reach that level at a major film festival like that, I had wondered, first off, wow, that's impressive. Congratulations. And two, I just naturally curious. I wonder if they've been filmmakers forever. And to hear you say that it just kind of grew out of your own story and your own desire to share your journey and passion. And two, the fact that people resonated with it, that's artistic recognition in its own form right there. Just to know that it's your own story and that people resonated with it. So that's a powerful message right there. It's just that's really cool. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to that. I know that's not your only endeavor, of course, but congratulations, my friend, and who knows where that will go.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that story. So, what are you working on right now? What's newest with Awakening Education? And of course, feel free if you would like to tell the audience a little more about what exactly Awakening Education is in your own words. Feel free. But what's next on the docket? What's the biggest, most exciting thing in Pete's calendar?
Listen, I think a great place to start is what is Awakening Education. And
Absolutely.
I think I need to sort of set the scene about this, right? Because it's just a little over 5 years ago that Roxy and I were insurance brokers. We had an insurance
Wow.
agency, we had an office, staff, we sold plant and machinery insurance for mining companies and excavators and trucks and this sort of thing. And
Different life.
a different life. Listen, we were always into personal development. We'd listen to a couple of Tony Robbins, and I think I did the Firewalk, and I was certainly into self-development, but I was
Okay.
into self-development to help me.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing self-development so I could be a better me, right? Let's say in the matrix, as we'd call it now, right? Out there in the world.
I got
And
you. Yes.
a brother of mine had what in Australia is considered a really good job. He worked for a mining company. He'd work on a tugboat and he would work 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, right? Make a lot of money, great medical plan, whatever, all the things that
Yeah.
so funny
Security and
now
everything.
we laugh about. Different life because he's doing a completely different thing as well. But it's like back in that day, we considered all of that really, really important. And now we
Yeah.
laugh at that. But we had a family dinner, and one day he made this announcement that he's going to a health retreat. He's going to Costa Rica and he's going to do ayahuasca.
Okay.
And we were all like, what are you going to do? He's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do ayahuasca ceremony. And we're like, oh, yeah, what's that? And they go, oh, well, I drink this plant medicine and it sort of shows me where I am at my life and helps me find my purpose. Because he said, I feel like I'm selling half of my life for money. In other
Yeah.
words, he works 3 weeks on, he works 3 weeks off. I'm giving away half of my life for money and I'm not feeling fulfilled. And he said, and I lie there. You got to understand the reality of this. He's floating out
Yeah.
at sea in a big tin can, right?
And that's a heavy statement because we would all consider that kind of like, of course, we trade time for money. Time is money. We hear that all the time. But even just you saying that now in that context was kind of heavy. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a problem with that to me anyway. Not bashing people who trade time for money, etc. I just mean, how did we get there? Yeah,
Yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, most definitely. So certainly he had that realization. And, I will expand on it because he also said, and I don't even agree with what we're doing. We're digging iron
Mm.
ore out of the ground and, destroying the earth, so to speak, like me leaving big scars on it, trucking it to a barge, which has to drag it out through the shallow water. And our job is then to keep the tugboat, the barge in position with the tugboat while it gets loaded onto this big iron ore ship. It's in the
Mm.
middle of nowhere. It's hot. It's horrible, but he makes really good money. And he's like, I don't agree with what we're doing. I don't feel any fulfillment for it. So I'm going to go to this Costa Rica place and drink this ayahuasca and see if somehow I can find meaning to it all.
Not a terrible plan, given what you know now, probably, right?
Yeah, but
At the time, it sounded crazy.
dude, we were sitting there at the dinner table and he goes, yeah, this is my plan. I think I'm having a spiritual awakening. And even that, I said, what's that? He
What
said,
do you
I
mean?
think I'm searching for a higher purpose in my life rather than just mindlessly living my life. I want it actually to mean something. And I'm sitting there chomping on my dinner and I'm like, oh, yeah, good for you. It's like
Right.
terrific.
Yeah.
You hear this and you're like, oh, great. So he disappears. First, there's a little kicker here, Tyler. My father hears this and he goes, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. I might go too. So my father decided he'll go with my brother Dan, and they both
Wow.
went to Costa Rica. And they had an amazing time. Came back from Costa Rica, we have another family dinner. We're sitting there and we want to hear how they went.
Yeah.
And at the last moment, they took my youngest brother. And they took my youngest brother not because he was interested. They took my youngest brother because he was stuck in a rut. He was smoking too much weed. He was playing online video games and he was mindlessly clicking his life away. And he was lost and depressed. And they took him along because maybe it'd help and hopefully it wouldn't hurt.
Could help. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So they come back, they do this dinner, and in the dinner, their faces are lit up like they had seen some sort of illuminated being. Like
Right.
they had connected to Jesus on the hill, the angels on the hill, or whatever it is. It's like they'd seen the burning bush, so to speak. So they came
Right.
back and they're all sitting there telling the story of dinner.
Yeah, that's always
And
an
they're talking about,
amazing.
oh, I got this message and I got that message, and oh my God, there was this going on, and people, and it was chaos, and etc. And they were so enthusiastic. And my brother talked about how he's leaving mining. I'm leaving the job. I'm not going to do it anymore. He
Big
used to
decision.
work as a diver, and he said, I'm going back to diving. I want to come home. I want to be around the family. So I'm going to move back from Perth, which is, it's a 6-hour plane ride. It's like the equivalent of moving back from LA to New York, or a better example would be moving back from New York to LA because
Right.
hey, we're in the sunshine and the blue, clear water and the family's there. He's like, I'm coming home. And
Wow.
to this day, he makes less money. He works as a commercial diver. He's got a beautiful property that he keeps immaculate, and he loves his 50-year-old avocado tree, and he potters in the garden, and he's happier. He's more connected. He's more fulfilled, even though he's on less money and less health benefits and all of those things, which in the whole context of life really don't matter.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, money seems to, it's funny. I remember from, university and classes and everything on economics and just the simple definitions of everything and how money is. And basically, I think that the definition of money is that it's liquid and tradable for absolutely anything, which, pretty much means that it's above all else. Like you can trade money for anything. And that's absolutely insane. I mean, just with the picture you just painted. I mean, of course, we all need to eat. We need to have shelter. We need to have certain amount of health care and such. Not bashing the concept of money at all, but that balance where you said it doesn't really matter, if he makes less money and has less health benefits or whatever it might be, less money. What does that matter in that context? If he's so much happier, if he's less stressed, if he's not overworked because the work he's doing isn't work by that definition, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. You combine all those things, and I absolutely think that's what real wealth is, in combination with certain aspect of freedom. I think to a person, at least myself, I like to feel free. That's pretty important to me. But I mean, that is for, that sounds like he really took the jump, just leaving that big mining job and everything like that. So it
Yeah.
sounds like,
Because so often
dad.
that's what the trick is, right? People think, well, if I've got money, then I'll be free. If I've got money,
Hmm.
actually, then I'll be happy. I'll have no worries. They say in Australia, everyone in Australia. Can you do that for me? Yeah, no worries, right? It's a term.
Okay.
Everyone wants to have no worries, but so often people who've got loads of money still worry. And what do they worry about? Losing their money, right? It's like I've worked this hard for it, still got to worry about money, right? And if they're not
Could
worried
lose
about money,
everything.
they're worried about their health, right? We take our health for granted. You lose your health. Oh my gosh, I got to get myself well. I can't live with this pain. Oh, this is terrible. So very
Yeah.
often people are actually chasing things and reactive rather than sitting there and thinking, well, why do I want the money? Well, I want the money so I can feel free. I want the money because then I'll be happy. Well, why not be happy now and why not work
Just
towards being free now? Now, it doesn't mean you don't leave your job because if you leave your job, you move down into the lower chakras of
right.
scarcity and survival. So you're no use to anyone if you're scratching around and you can't pay your bills and
And
etc.
doing
And you can't
doing not
work on yourself and elevating because you're just trying to survive. So we need to do this divine balance of the 3D.
very well said. Very well
But I
said.
only got to that point when, after my brother made that announcement at the dinner, and Roxy and I looked at one another and we said, well, maybe we should go to Costa Rica. I remember the look on Roxy's face. She's thinking, seriously? Would he actually go? She thought I wasn't interested in this, but I respected my brother enough
And the
to think
experience, yes.
if he's keen, if he's so fired up about this thing, then it must be good, right? I'll go check it out. And we
Yeah,
had two little
absolutely.
boys. It was a big deal, but Roxy and I went to
Yeah.
Costa Rica and had the same experience they had. And on the aeroplane home, I turned and I said to Roxy, I really don't feel like going home and doing insurance. I think we've got to sell the insurance company. So we sold our insurance company, not knowing what the heck we were going to do, other than we were allergic to insurance by the end of this experience. The fact that you're selling fear, you're selling worry. That's basically what it is. Some would say, "Oh,
That's
you're preparing everything," but
and I
listen,
completely get it. Yeah.
I've got insurances, but
Right.
and I have used the insurances, but listen, I didn't want to be in that industry. So we sold that business and we didn't know quite what to do. We just started teaching people to meditate and started teaching people to set goals and, to find some
Okay.
fulfillment. And the name Awakening Education was available, right? And I
Okay.
thought, well,
Absolutely.
I might grab that, right? I didn't even know what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
I
It's
just got the name Awakening Education and we taught a little meditation course and that's how we started. So
it's
it
great.
came from, it depends how deep you want to go, but it came from a key shift within ourselves, that awakening, let's call it. That is the story of our awakening. And then what we did from there was actually follow the signs.
And, it's a story that I hear often, but one, not super often, and two, I don't see it walked as often as I see it spoken. I love that because that's very similar to my own personal spiritual awakening journey, which I even sometimes now feel kind of corny a little bit saying, yeah, that was my spiritual awakening. I just feel like I've moved beyond like labeling those things like that anymore. I don't like to call it those kind of call it, Mom, that was my spiritual awakening. But I guess it was the time that I woke up. A very similar thing. I was, doing the interior design thing. I'd fallen into a spot where a lot of people would have just been fine and happy with it. And I didn't really care. Something happened, series of events, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just left. No plan, none of that. And then I just started talking to people and making it a point to be of a lot more service, participate in, groups and live streams, and people come for help. refer them to a certain group that I think might be good for them, things like that. And, that was just the path. That was just the way things went. There was no other clear guidance. I really understand that feeling. But I love, what you guys have built with that so far. Sorry to cut you off there, of course, but it's just, yeah, I really identify with it. So that was 5 years ago when you guys first had that trip to Costa Rica, you and Roxy. Is that correct? You said?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And the reason the trip was so powerful, and the reason we have gone back, and the reason we did a show on that. So after we did Portal to the Pleiadians, which did very well and was received well, which actually
Absolutely.
was the story of my awakening, which happened in Costa Rica. So the
Oh,
first film was actually the story of what Mother Ayahuasca showed me. And then the subsequent movie was the story of the lead up to all of that and what the actual ceremony itself was like. And
okay.
those two movies, once again, really the story of Roxy and myself, the story of each and every one of us. It's the story of how each and every one of us, in a sense, are souls that come in to inhabit these physical bodies, and we live out these soul contracts. And these soul contracts, brother, they got bloody fine print. You know, we agree to some shit before we come in. Like, it's up hidden up the back, that fine print, but it's like, what do you mean I've got to go through that? I've got to feel like that. You know what? They're going to do that to me. Oh my God, that's going to be so painful. It's like, I think if some of us knew what we were putting ourselves up for before we came in, there's a lot of people who'd look up and go, hey, can I change my mind? Can I go back up? This is going to suck, right?
Yeah. And that tween life amnesia really serves us, right? I don't know if a lot of us would actually go through with that final jump. We might kind of walk back down the stairs of the water slide, so to speak.
That most
Yeah,
definitely. So,
very well put.
that feeling in me had always been there, that there was some sort of power, potential, some sort of ability or side to myself that I wasn't really tapping into and accessing. I didn't know what the heck that was. And I never believed it could ever really be anything, let's call it out of the ordinary, because, I was at false beliefs. I had all this pain within me. In fact, the retreat that we went to in Costa Rica has
Mhm.
a regime that they take you through. You do 4 ayahuasca journeys over 7 nights. And on
Okay.
night one, the intention that they strongly suggest you set is show me who I've become. Now, when Mother Ayahuasca showed me who I had become, that was pretty confronting. And
I can
I
only
could tell by
imagine.
the reaction in the people in the room that there were a lot of other people having some problems getting shown who they'd become as well, right?
Yeah, that metaphorical, or not even metaphorical, that real reckoning with true self without I mean, you're seeking it, but you don't know what you're going to really truly find. And yeah, that I've had a few experiences with Mother Aya myself. Yeah, that moment of reckoning with self, that's a really good way to kind of put it. Is, well, wow, and it's not always pretty. I mean, it's really what it is. I like how you said that, and yet of course that's not you're not taking credit for it, but the intention of who have I become, and it very much just suggests with blanket no room for error that anybody there has we've all become something, which it doesn't mean it's wrong, but we have inherently become something that is straight away from, like, why did we have to become anything? Why aren't we just? Why not just be? Why become? Why didn't we just continue to be? That's in identifying what we become. That's the way. That's, I guess, the first step in identifying in what we truly are. Whatever we've come is not what we truly are.
And perhaps the reason why we don't just be is because it wouldn't be a catalyst for the soul growth. So the pain, the junk, so to speak, in the soul contract are all beautiful catalysts to help us to grow and expand as a soul, because we don't get much spiritual growth while we're sitting by the pool, tapping our toe, listening to the music, and everything's going great, right? Usually we have to grow when we've got to forgive someone who's been a real
Mm-hmm.
jerk. right? Or we've got to
Absolutely.
recover after grief or loss. Or, you know, we've got to handle being cheated by that business partner or cheated by that love partner or rejected by the parent or have conditional love by whoever it may be in our life, right? It's
100%.
it's those situations where you've got to forgive, you know? You got to forgive the
Yeah.
dogs when they bark in the middle of a podcast, right? It's like you got to learn to roll and not sweat the small stuff, because all of those things are catalysts for growth.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. We always hear that. You don't. You got to go through it. You've got to. No. No pain, no gain. Pain to play. I'm sorry. Yeah, pain to purpose. Missions, etc. There's a lot of phrases behind that. But I always thought of it in the other sense. Just pondering to myself, like, wow, all the times that I was like really super feeling successful just in an earthly sense, in like a material sense, but not in a state of spirituality or an emotionality where maybe that was really lacking. Maybe I was and it was evident externally. Maybe I'd be unhealthy, I'd be out of shape, I'd be overweight, things like that. But I wouldn't care or notice. I would be focused on the promotion or the new business cards or the new bonus that might come next month. Just the stuff that stuff that I used to worry about. And just to stop worrying about that stuff and to move away from that was just about the most freeing thing that ever could have happened. Because now what I worry about just feels 100% natural. You said no worries earlier, and it's not. I don't want to say I have no worries. I just feel like the things that I worry about now are genuinely things that I really should not worry but care about. If I'm putting energy and time into things now, it usually makes 100% perfect sense. And looking back, what I used to worry about, it was like, yeah, I came to a point where it was, well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, it's a construct, and yeah, I'm worried about that because of this and the optics of that, and yada yada yada. That wasn't what was fulfilling. I really
Yeah.
identify with that.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, look, that whole show me who I've become was actually part of the catalyst. Like when someone says, "How do you understand? How do you have an awakening?" Well,
Mm.
part of it was me getting to be shown quite brutally by Mother Ayahuasca that I had issues, right? On the surface, I was a business owner. In the real world, I was successful, right? And I had the house and the car and the kids,
Mm.
and things were going well, and we went on nice holidays and things appeared to be going well. But underneath it all, I had issues, right? And I had female issues. And the issues with females were linked to guilt and shame and linked to me at 5. And Mother Ayahuasca showed me like a replay of how at 5, I took my little sister for a walk after heavy rain down to a nearby bridge to have a look at the stream. And she fell off the bridge into the stream, into the wild water, and drowned, disappeared. I couldn't even find her. So I had to go home and I
Oh,
had to tell my mother that my little sister had drowned. And you can
I'm
imagine,
so
right?
sorry to hear that.
She lost a shit. She cried,
Condolences.
ran out of the room, and there was screaming and upset. And of course, my father came home from work and was splashing around in the creek looking for my sister. And when they finally found her and she was drowned, it's like I split from my soul. Like I lost part of myself. You want to talk about a hard soul contract? It's like if I had known I was going in for that crap, I wouldn't have come in, right? And I'm like far out. So all through
Well,
my life, what happened is I had patterns of issues with women. I was always trying to please them. I was always trying to make it up to my mum and dad. I was always trying to please everyone, please people, like whoever it was, the school teacher, the friend, the grandparents, the this, the that. I was like a do-gooder, and I had this emotion of wanting people to like me because underneath it all, I didn't like myself. So I think because I had that neediness, I actually went all the way through school. I never had a girlfriend at school. It was like, couldn't get one. Every time I tried, It was rejection. Didn't happen. Okay. I was getting not back, or right. I was giving off a neediness odor. Like when someone's like really keen,
Yeah.
everyone runs in the opposite direction. Like that was me. And it wasn't until university, and what they call some Dutch courage. I have a couple of schooners at the bar, and all of a sudden I might be able to go and like talk to a girl, right? And maybe
Maybe a
I
little
get a
little
kiss or some
calm on
sort
the
of
right night.
conversation. I got one or two girlfriends. It wasn't long in, married the wrong woman, and I knew it wasn't the right decision.
Okay.
But I was trying to make her happy, make my parents happy, make the aunties and uncles happy, like make everyone else happy, even though I knew this wasn't the right decision. And I didn't know about the law of attraction. I didn't know about how the
Right.
universe is trying to help me. I'm just scrambling through life, and the universe is going, Pete, you got to forgive yourself. You've got an energy issue with females. And if the universe isn't brilliant, I don't know what is, because then I had 3 daughters. So I'm trying to make the
Wow.
daughters happy, trying to make the ex-wife happy, always trying to make mum happy, trying to make dad proud of me. I'm lost to myself. What I want doesn't matter, right? And Mother Ayahuasca is showing me all of this and goes, Pete, you've got to forgive yourself. You didn't push your sister off the bridge. You didn't have any ill will towards her. Why did you decide that stuffed your life? And I'm like lying there, right? There's people crying and spewing in the bucket and rolling around in the darkness. And I'm lying there getting this full on psychedelic therapy session. And she's
Yeah.
going, why did you choose that that's such a bad thing? And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know. It's like, I don't.
Like,
She goes,
oh no,
don't you
isn't it?
realize we were setting you up for something? You're being set up for what I'm doing right now with you. You've been prepared for that. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit. It's like,
Yeah.
well, this stuff's great. Like far out. So,
Right. Yeah. Far out.
it's like on the first night, I forgave myself. On the first night, I found out all of a sudden all of that was for a reason. And one of the points you made earlier that I think is huge is I got shown and I actually listened and took action on it. I didn't get just shown what I'd become and then ignore it.
It's really, yeah, that's the key to it. Because when I had that myself personally having that reckoning with self, one of the things I noticed was I felt regret and almost like resentment towards myself. I guess a little bit of guilt towards times in my life I failed or let people down around me, and a lot of times that was due to not that I was doing anything like morally horrible. Usually I associated it with like not moving forward in the corporate world, or leaving one arena, like leaving music and being like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I have to start over. I'm going to have to be kind of start at the bottom, the lower rung on the ladder. So I was very much oriented in that way. And what I realized was, wow, some of the times that I was like the most materially successful back in those. I'm not saying material success is a bad thing at all. Material success is also can be just, and it usually is, in my opinion, a reflection of inner state. But back then, what I noticed was I was the least happy and the most self-destructive and the most destructive to those around me when I thought I was the most happy. I was the most successful. I was like, all right, I'm achieving what I'm supposed to achieve. If I just keep doing this, things will get better. This is what the path is. During those psychedelic journeys where I had a kind of a switch where I stopped using psychedelics, like I did when I was in college and things recreationally, and, later had it, try not recreationally, but used them in ritual setting with shaman, with supervision, and with proper intention and things like that. Those things were really opened up to me, and that was a big hit for me. Like I had everything backwards. Yeah. So that was the first hit there. That first night was with Aya for me.
Yeah. Tyler, I suggest we pause for a moment because it sounds like you've got someone there I can hear, and I've got someone at my door. I want to just get rid of them and I'll come straight back to you, okay? I'm not expecting anyone, but can I just come back to you in a moment? I can't hear you. I can't hear you, but I'm going to just go.
Hi, Pete. Did you get the door?
Yeah, it sounded like there was someone walking around going, is there anyone there? But maybe that's on your end.
There was people here that were making some noise, so I shut my mic off for a minute, which was
Yeah,
fine
right.
because you were speaking and it was okay. I could hear you fine. They were just passing through and shut my mic, but then I think you didn't hear me for a second. But it was when you had already said something about, can we pause for a second? So it's okay.
Yeah. And
I just
now,
know
just so you know, when I look at you, it's very pixelated and it's been pixelated the whole time. Is that how this one?
occasionally on Riverside, like you're perfect right now. I can see you, but I've had episodes where the person I'm looking at is so pixelated, but comes out in 4K, comes out perfect.
Okay.
It just
Just
depends. We're
That's
both
why I didn't
using
bring it
the
up before. That's why I didn't bring it
yeah.
up before.
Nope. Yeah,
But
it'll be okay.
yeah. So I'm happy
It's
to continue. I thank you
okay.
for letting me just check that.
Yeah, no problem at all. I always just write the time down so I can say, yeah, just
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back, folks. Sometimes you got to take a little break. So, Pete, what were we discussing? We were into awakening education and your journey there. So 5 years ago, wow, it doesn't sound like such a long time, but so much has changed in the past 5 years. And I'm sure so much has changed for you in the past 5 years, going from the insurance company to the awakening itself to awakening education. What is kind of the mission, the number one mission? I know we can look this up on Google, but for the audience, what's the main mission of awakening education? What's your goal?
Goal, I think, as such, is to inspire other people to be patient with themselves, don't have expectations on themselves if they feel like they are going through an awakening, and to guide them and to hold stable for them and reassure them and to laugh with them that they're shifting and growing and changing, and that it happens in different forms and it happens for different reasons. Some people, their awakening happens because something happens in their relationship. For other people, their awakening might get triggered because they lose their health. For others, it's because they feel unfulfilled in their work. For some people, there could be some other spontaneous event which happens, which causes them to have a realization. There are lots of different things that can trigger this so-called awakening for people.
Yeah,
This
man,
awakening to the
definitely.
point that they're not just going to mindlessly live their life chasing something which they believe is outside themselves that's going to give them happiness and fulfillment and to feel like they are enough, but help them to start realizing that those things that they're looking for are within them, and they can learn to develop those states and have them in the now. And of course, guiding people through the navigation, as we talked about, of being able to still deal with the matrix. You've still got to answer emails. You've still got to do your laundry. You've still got to go to the grocery store. You've got to ring up a big telecom company and get put on hold for 45 minutes. That is
Gotta
part
do
of
it.
being human.
It is.
I think of that beautiful saying, before enlightenment, we chop wood and cart water. But I think it's fair to say after enlightenment, we still chop wood and cart water. And in this day and age, that means you still got to go to the grocery store, put fuel in your car, and do all of those things. So Roxy and I talk about that in a very down to earth way. We
Excellent.
very much believe in the saying, what you are speaks so loudly, people can't hear what you're saying. So there's
Absolutely.
so many people out there that are way more knowledgeable about awakening than I am. There are so many people out there, they've written more books, they've been to Egypt more times, they've been to Peru, or they've done this and done that and stood on their head in the desert and da 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 and all these fancy things and buried crystal skulls. And I hear it
Right.
all and I'm like, far out.
Me
I've
too.
got so far to go. And then when I have to deal with them, they're difficult and unreasonable. And I think, goodness me, your message doesn't align with what you are, right? It's like they're suspicious, they're nasty, they're judgy, but they know so much. So I feel like all I can do is be the best me I can be and
Yeah.
share that with people and hope to inspire them to go on the journey of listening to themselves as they go through their awakening. I know that's not
It's
a really business mission statement, but I feel like that's the statement and the purpose.
sounds like a great mission statement to me. And, as far as a business mission statement goes, I mean, business could be anything. It's perfectly acceptable to me. And in fact, more than exceptional. So give yourself more credit.
Well, I
You know,
appreciate that. I've got a business
I,
degree, and business degree says businesses operate why to make a profit.
yeah, right.
And that actually goes to the first question you asked me. What are you excited about doing at the moment? And at the moment, Roxy and I are interested in spreading that message that I just shared
Mm-hmm.
with you. And none of it makes business sense. We don't
Right.
do anything because it's a good plan. Like
Yeah.
running around making movies on different things that we find exciting from a business point of view does not make good sense, right?
Right. Of course. It gets a little recognition in niche form. And
All of
yeah, of
that.
course,
Like
anything you
if it,
can stay consistent at. But yeah, if you're involved in so many different things, but like, I mean,
this,
you seem
the
like a pretty
YouTube
happy
videos
person.
say,
So
you got to sit on Google Trends and study the keywords and study stuff that's trending at the moment and do a video on that and tie it in with your message and etc. etc. And I've got a problem with that. The first problem
me
is that
too.
sounds like a lot of work. And the
Heck
older I
yeah.
get, the less hard I want to work, right? And also, it's not as authentic as what Roxy and I want to talk about. What we want to really do is, like Bashar says, we want to follow our highest excitement without expectation on the outcome. And if along the
Absolutely.
way we question how we're going or we get scared, realize that that is a false belief in us coming up that we need to explore and understand. Or if we have followed our highest excitement as far as we can, we're going to choose the next highest thing that excites us and do that. And people go, so what? You're going to go to the beach instead of sit there and work on your business. Guess what? A lot of the time, that's
Hmm.
what I do. And it doesn't make
Absolutely.
sense, right? And if I get guilty going for the swim, right? I'm going for a swim in the sea. And if I get guilty about that, that's something in me, an old program about feeling like I've got to conform to the way
Right.
people think things should be done. Because, see, if you get yourself out of the way, you allow the universe and the organizing principle to come into
Mm.
play. And this is the power of synchronicities. This is the power of, some would call it luck or opportunity,
Yes.
but you need to be, as my shirt's going, you need to be in the right vibrational state to allow that to come in. So and
Yeah.
the walk at the beach, often what I run into, someone who I can interview on the show who's got a great story. When the walk on the
Yeah.
beach or the coffee shop across the road from my favorite swimming spot, I often have an amazing conversation and people go, oh, I saw your shirt. Oh, the Great Awakening. Oh, you're a
I
light
love
worker. It's like I'm out doing the swim at the beach, not crunching the numbers. And that's work. People go, what do you do for work? It's like, hard to
Yeah,
explain.
dude, I couldn't identify with you more because I mean, Jane and I are not a married couple, is in the sense that you and Roxy are partners, but we're partners. In the podcast, she's the producer. I'm on camera, and we do a lot of other endeavors together as well. We work together. It's great, and our missions are very much the same, and that's why we work together. Is because it's not we're not against dollars or euros or whatever, but we don't do things that make sense in that form either. Our decisions are completely guided by, I mean, what people would really define as light work, and what makes us feel good. And love what you said is I agree. And I say this all the time. I probably say it every episode. I'm not a healer or a psychic or a medium. I do meditate and I do go into trance states. I spend a lot of time in trance, but I've never done any kind of automatic writing or channel anything. I've never done anything like that. It's just not. I'm completely fine admitting that. But I also always say that everybody has a place in the new
Mm.
earth. Everybody has a job to do in the new earth if they want. And job, that word job. We hate jobs, right? We don't have to hate. We don't have to hate our job. When you explain to people what you do, I'm happy to say that that's pretty much what I do these days. Although we're not at a point yet where the podcast itself is like taking care of, enough for me to not worry about anything in the traditional sense. Although I've had other endeavors in the past, it's not like I've never done anything before. But I'm in a place where I feel comfortable enough to just trust fall into myself. And as I do that, I level up spiritually and emotionally, and my understanding of my own consciousness, and also what really isn't a part of my own consciousness, and that was just an ego attachment. That kind of thing levels up and improves so fast that, you know not to be repetitive, but that external reality really manifests itself in some really, really extravagantly like synchronous ways that allow me to. That's exactly what I do. P is wake up and I go for a walk and I just want to talk to people and tell them to have a great day. And yeah, I'm always shout out to GFL again. I'm usually wearing a shirt that says Galactic Federation or Illuminated, not Illuminati. And I love stopping and having those conversations and just being that lifestyle. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, this is my man right here.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
And because a lot of people are excited about this. Like there'll be people who are watching this who are awake and who are thinking, oh, wow, that sounds great what he's doing. I wish I
Right.
could do more to spread the light, to raise the vibration of the planet, to have that ripple effect on consciousness. And what you just shared, that is the message. What you just said then, that helps to raise the vibration of the planet. That is
Absolutely.
the light work. That's what light workers do. What light workers
Mhm.
do is walk around spreading sunshine, right? So you
Yeah.
don't need, and that's why I say you don't need to quit your job, right? And all of a sudden
Right.
start doing Reiki, or you know what I
Of
mean, doing
course.
tarot, owning a crystal
if,
shop. None
if
of
you're
that
called
stuff.
to, not a
If you
terrible
want
thing,
to,
but yeah, not a
go for it.
requirement.
But what you can do day to day is like, and this is an Australian thing, but be a legend. Like, be a legend. Be a really generous of spirit person. Smile. Give a
I like
genuine
that.
compliment if you feel it. Be compassion in action. Be patient. Be understanding. Respond rather than react. And in that vibrational state that you're in, that state that you're in has an effect. Sometimes in a crisis, there can be a
Big.
person who's in and around who's calms everyone else down. They go, oh, where's this
Yeah.
person? Because I feel so calm when they're around them. They just don't lose it under pressure. They're so stable. That's what a light worker is. When someone's giving joy
Yes.
and compliments and they're generous of spirit, that's what a light worker is. It's like sometimes people overcomplicate this. They think they need to walk around in puddles of peacefulness, being super serious to be spiritual. No, 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 no. In my opinion,
I
according to the scale of consciousness, joy it's up above peace. Joy is above peace on the scale of consciousness, just under authenticity. So if you're your authentic
Authenticity is the
self
top.
and you're full of enthusiasm and joy, you're emanating a very powerful vibration, and that has a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people appreciate that. Some people get irritated and run in the opposite direction, but we need
And
not talk about those,
that's a
right? Because
shadow.
all that's doing is just triggering them to where
It's a
their
reflection.
darkness lies, right? And they're like, you drive me crazy. You're just too positive. They're like,
You're just too happy, man.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautifully said because it sounds a little bit like cocky humans, cocky light workers, thinking they could just be themselves, and that's an honorable thing to do. Yeah, super honorable. When you think about it, it's not so easy in Western culture, in our modern Western culture for everybody who is, put through the 12 years of programming, standard programming, etc., that we were all put through to really go back as an adult and say, well, first define what does that even mean to seek the authentic self, and then express it in a positive way, and seek to always grow and and be the light everywhere you go, and also keep that other foot grounded in reality where, you know, you have children, you have bills, you have, you know, you have adult responsibilities. Now you're not the same as you were when you were 4, before you maybe learned some things that might need to be unlearned in some situations. It's almost like it's a melding of the, you know, the child and then the adult in you. And you know, the other thing that I noticed, and I remember you, and thank you for saying, you commented on something that I said that you thought was rather, you know, impactful. I think just men like us in these situations, even though there's plenty of men in the spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual community, just men sitting down and having these kind of conversations. I know it helps other men out there, because I'll get the messages and things afterwards that, you know, people will tell me like, wow, I've never heard anybody speak like that before. I didn't know, I didn't know that you thought that way or whatever. And I think people perceive me as my authentic self, who's very open. But, you know, truth is, I don't know how everybody perceives me. Some people might perceive me as somebody who comes off as cold and stoic and masculine. And I mean, that's not how I consider myself. But if I'm vulnerable and authentic, touch the right person's nerve at the very perfect time, and that's what synchronicity is all about. That's what light work is all about. So I feel good just knowing that being authentic is inherently a good deed. I also justify that by saying, hey, we know there's no selfless good deeds.
Yeah. I would reflect on your comment too about how some people think it would be difficult for them to be their authentic self. And I would encourage them to observe how much energy and effort they put into playing the role, living the facade, trying to be something that they're not. And is
Absolutely.
not the purpose of life for you to express the divine through yourself, through your own unique lens? And your
Yeah.
own unique lens as your personality. So being authentic is actually living your purpose. If we
Mm-hmm.
talk back to the scale of consciousness of authenticity being at the top, then what we've got to do is be our authentic self. However, we play a role. Why do we play a role? Because of the beautiful point you made. Because from as soon as we come out of the womb, we are impressed with expectations and roles and conformity. And we try to please people in order to what? Get love and acceptance. And often we think if we are who we authentically are, that won't be liked and accepted. So often what people do is they dim their light. All the things I did. Try and
Yeah.
please people. Don't listen to themselves. They're all shut off. They chase things outside themselves to try and make themselves feel better. And all of that is only a problem if you don't wake up and see that you're doing it. And not that it's a problem anyway, because if you don't work out in this lifetime that you're being service to self versus service to others, it's cool. You'll come back next time and hopefully you can do it again.
You get
But
another shot.
you get another shot. So it doesn't matter. We all take death too seriously as well. I don't want to die. But also I realize that
Yeah.
we have a preconceived idea that when we die, it's over. Who's to say you're
We
not
do.
back the next day or in an instant or
Absolutely.
within
In an instant.
15 seconds of it happening? We don't really
Absolutely.
know. We've just got
Yeah.
these preconceived ideas, right? And we've got
Yeah.
all of this stuff that we've got to deal with. So the beauty of the awakening is it's like, in a way, you can see yourself doing your stuff. Like the old
Absolutely.
me, I would have got very cross at those dogs woofing like that when I'm sitting here, supposedly in silence, doing
Yeah,
this,
right.
and they get
Yeah.
fired up at the neighbour or whatever it is. It's like, you dogs, righto, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
But if I get
Much more
reacted
patient.
about anything, and now we're starting to go into helping people here with how they deal with living their life, but whatever you get upset about is you realizing you've got the issue. And then people go, but hang on, it's them. That person is such a jerk. And, I'm
Right.
justified to be angry, or I'm justified to tell them to nick off. And when I say to them, well, really, it's actually a choice. And you point out the pattern to them and you say, once you know the pattern, when the pattern arises again, how you respond then is a choice, not a mindless pattern. So the more you know thyself, the more you can go, gosh, I get triggered by rude people because actually
Yeah.
underneath I wasn't heard as a child, or I didn't feel respect. Otherwise, someone's rude and go, how's their form? Oh, funny, hey? And it
Right.
just doesn't bother you.
I guess the goal would be to take it to that point where you don't internalize it, and you can see that maybe that person might, just an example, that person may have mirroring traits of something you experienced, something you were afraid of once becoming, something you might, whatever your reaction is. But to look at it with doesn't control me, I'm not controlled by that anymore.
I
It goes
love
all back
that.
to that not having.
That's a very good point. Because what we judge
Oh,
in
thank
others
you.
is often a reflection of what's in us that we're not happy with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that reflection when you realize, like, the rude guy at the convenience store, or the grocery store, or whatever it is, if it doesn't bother you and it used to, then hey, maybe you're making progress, and just there's parts of you that you didn't like, that didn't serve you, that moved on, and parts of you that you do like, that are part of your authentic self, that are starting to really shine through with contrast. And it's all beautiful. It's all growth. It's great. I think we've been kind of taught to, like, you don't want to be too cocky. You don't want to sound like you love yourself too. Yeah, that guy's in love with himself. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's cocky and being in love with yourself, and then there's being in love with yourself. We should all be in love with ourselves. Why wouldn't we be in love with ourselves? The very person we are right now, the meat suit that we got dealt this time around. There's no reason not to be in love with it. We have such an easy time falling in love with other things. Why can't we fall in love with ourselves? And it's the great fallacy. Forget the quote, but it was something like, I don't understand humans. They spend their youth trying to make money so that in older age they can spend their money buying back their health in an attempt to buy back their youth, which doesn't ever work. I'm butchering the quote, of course, but something to that effect, and it really touched me. Yeah, we're interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we all know no one on their deathbed wishes they spent more time at the office. I can't sum it up better than that. You know, it's, well, like you
100%.
say, we need money. We live in the matrix, and the more we can do what we enjoy and have an income come in that supports that, then the more we're going to have flow. But there's also nothing wrong with having a good income that you don't particularly enjoy, but it funds and provides freedom for you to be able to go off and do spiritual pursuits. And
And
for
that's
people
so
listening to
important.
this, I would just leave that with them, is that certainly do what Roxy and I did and quit your job and run off and go, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I think I'm going to live in a van and drive around. And of course you could do that. And God bless you if you do. But I don't want to
Cheers,
say everyone
Peter.
doesn't need to go and do that. Okay. You
Yeah,
don't need to race off and all of a sudden grow dreadlocks and get sleeve tattoos and go to Burning Man because you've become spiritual.
right.
The
That's not what
spiritual
spiritual
ego
is.
creeps in sometimes, and people go, oh, this means I'm going to do this and do that, and da 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 da. It's even that is
Yes.
playing a role. They play a role of being spiritual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh, you
and
still
that's
eat
that's
fish?
that's what you
If
are.
you're
You're
enlightened, you shouldn't eat
authentic.
fish or whatever it is. It's like, well, dude, whatever. Some people
Right.
are like
Yeah.
that. It's like, oh, you're putting mayonnaise on your salad. Oh, dude, you know what's in that? It's like,
And it becomes a new level of judgment, and it's
oh
just
my
like, aren't we doing what
gosh,
we used to do?
don't you know you shouldn't judge? It's like, whatever, no matter what someone does, don't judge them, whatever it is, right? Judge
You
not,
just don't
lest ye
know.
be judged. Those of you
Right.
that are free from
Exactly.
sin, you can cast the first stone.
Cast that first
Well, that
stone.
shuts them up.
Yeah. And that's so valuable. I mean, it's see, it's kind of a brother in arms in that sense, because that is where I kind of see myself. And I've even been told that. I mean, is there's value in that as being kind of a bridge, not. And for those who are, I always say, draped in crystals and saffron robes and dreadlock, but are just silly examples like that are exaggerated. Nothing wrong with that at all. But there's a lot of people out there who think of it like, I bet there's somebody out there thinking like, do I have to change the way I dress? Like, just like little silly natural human thoughts. And no, you don't. It's very, very important to see examples like Pete, who, are just grounded in the 3D, very, as far as the Matrix and the 3D goes, and what most people are generally kind of into. There's an understanding of that, and you can still grow spiritually. That's what I get out of that. Pete, I know you had about an hour there, so we're getting there. It's just one more thing I wanted to ask you, and it's something that I've been getting asked a lot. So I think people could just benefit from your quick answer on this. I spend a lot of time on social media. Just I think it's kind of a nice duty to take answers. You just take questions and guidance and such from people who ask, who are going through that early awakening stage stuff, and the questions they have and everything. And one of the things that I get asked about a lot are very particular, like stories and labels and things like that. So the piece of advice I'm always giving is, try not to get caught up in the labels and the stories too much. Not that certain things aren't valuable. I just, I try to caution people from getting taken way too far down one rabbit hole and, tying into becoming John the Baptist because they had a dream about it. And, that's something that I preach. What is something you would say to a man who came to you right now who's wondering, all right, this guy Pete's cool. I'm waking up, but I'm struggling. It's just something you would say to comfort somebody who's feeling like they're having that real wake up, maybe that entering into that dark night of the soul, so to speak.
First of all, I'd ask, let me help me understand a little bit more. But you feel like you're going through an awakening, but you're having a difficult time. Is that the question?
Yeah.
And did you mention something about the dark night of the soul there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's such a
So,
beautiful
those
question
folks
because
who come
part of
and
having an
say that.
awakening is leaving behind the old definition of self and being excited to move into a new definition of self, which is a definition of self that's kinder and more compassionate and all the things we talked about, empathetic and understanding and positive and more
Mhm.
connected and listens to their higher self more and has a really good day and things flow. And if things aren't in balance, they respond rather than react. So people are excited about what they could become, but they've got these old patterns and programs and this old definition of self, which they know doesn't serve them. And they're excited about the new, but they're not there yet. So they're still attached to the old. So when you leave the old, let's call it location, and you head towards the promised land, you've got to walk through this wasteland of a desert, right? In
Can't
other
go
words,
around
you've
it.
got to go through the dark night of the
Gotta go
soul.
through it.
And as you walk through this darkness, sometimes you can think, this is hard. Like, I don't know, maybe this new version, this is difficult. I'm feeling uncomfortable here. I'm leaving behind what I knew, right? The devil you know.
Hmm.
Maybe it wasn't so bad there when I was a workaholic. Maybe it
Right.
wasn't so bad back there when I was whatever it is, an overachiever, or when I was, this, that, the other, all the things that people aren't happy about. It probably wasn't that bad. I mean, come on, wasn't that bad? And they're like, the old stories are there. And that's what the wobble in the awakening is because on the one hand, you're excited about what you could become, but you haven't got there yet. And you're leaving behind the aisle and you question in the middle. So, what I would say to that person who asked is keep going, brother. You're doing the right thing. Let me help you as much as you can. All right. It's like, keep it
Mm.
up. I was there. It's not you, not too lost. You're not broken. I believe
Right.
in you. Let me help you. That's what I'd say to that person.
Beautiful answer. And yeah, it's funny. I think I remember I wrote into my journal, but I wrote what's the shortest definition for the dark night of the soul? And it really relates to what you just said, real short. It was, well, it's the time that the old belief leaves and the old mental framework, it's gone, but you haven't replaced it yet with a new truth that can be really, it's just rootless. And that just kind of reminded me of that little thought that I kind of recite to myself as something to remind myself that you're good. You're gonna find the truth will find you soon. Pete, thank you for saying that. That was really beautiful. And of course, everything about you will be, in the link. In the caption to this video and the biography, so they can click your links. But where is best for? How do people get a hold of you the best? Where would you like people to reach out to you?
Interesting. Like if they want to watch and
If they
listen to
want to
more,
learn about awakening
yes,
education and get involved in some of the things that I didn't. I'm sorry. I should rephrase.
we're all over the
To
place. They could find us on
yeah.
YouTube because there's a lot of free information there, free
Mm-hmm.
meditations. That's where we put all our free content is on
Mm-hmm.
awakening education, or Pete and Roxy, actually. Pete and Roxy's the YouTube channel. I need to
Yeah.
get that
Okay.
right. And for anyone who ever wanted to do a course or do a session, that's awakening.education. That's our website. And however we connect with people, if they resonated with anything in our conversation, they should listen to their higher self. We need to learn to trust our gut instinct, be guided by our higher
Yes.
minds more, because that often knows what's right for us.
I agree. I could say that personally. I feel a lot more confident in being more accepting of the fact that I know less and I have less to address. It's just self that makes things actually a little bit easier. But yes, of course, to anybody that was listening, I wanted them to know, where to find you, hear you say it out loud, awakeningeducation.com. If they wanted to get in on any of the videos, webinars that you guys do, any of the one-on-one stuff, one person out there who really needs it is one of the most important people out there. So it's always good to get that. So I guess with that, Pete, thank you so much for your time today. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we went a little bit over the time we talked about, but that's okay. I hope. And just thank you so much, my friend. It's been great to get to chat with you today. And I hope we get to chat
Absolute
again
pleasure,
soon.
brother.
I
Absolute
hope our
pleasure. I
paths
feel like it
cross.
could be the first of many. And of course, I would
Yes,
encourage people who, watch this on your channel to give you a like and to make a comment. Particularly, they could also ask a question. Perhaps if in the future we have another conversation, people may have questions, and
absolutely.
there could be an opportunity for people to put forward questions so that the audience can guide the topic for us. And
Yeah.
if that was to happen, I'd be happy to come back and happy to engage with people's questions.
It's a really good idea. So yes, absolutely. Always like, subscribe, share, comment. That stuff, of course, really helps, especially a newer show. YouTube is a crazy little animal to crack, but we're not going to stop trying. But yes, absolutely. Put some questions in there. I'm an open book. Audience, I hope you know that. We would love some questions. If you want some, just our own experience, strength, and hope, whatever, drop some questions in there. I would certainly agree. And Pete, I appreciate you saying that. Your support means a lot. I really respect what you and Roxy are doing. So yeah, thank you again. First of many, indeed. I like to think that way. So thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Bye.
Another episode of the Immersive Podcast, folks. We are timing out at just about 1 hour and 15. We'll see where it edits to, but we try to stay pretty real with you. ITV, Unified, GFL, we love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time, guys. You have a wonderful day.